Okay, hi, this is for your chapter 11, lecture 11 about retirement planning. So, pension system and retirement scheme in Asia, the diversity of retirement income system around the world are noticeable with frequent involvement of variety of programs. So, the first tiers of programs is distributive parts. Is created to make sure that pensioners will achieve some fixed minimum standard of living. Meanwhile, the second one is insurance component, which are created to achieve certain target standard of living in retirement in comparison during employment. The first tier of redistributive part can be divided into three distinctive model, that is resource tested scheme, minimum scheme, and basic scheme. On the resource-tested programs, they are widespread in the 21 countries across Asia, and this program pays higher to poor pensioners. However, the payment is reduced as the level of other income increases during the retirement. Similar system apply to minimum pensions in the sense that it pays a higher benefit to lower income retirees. The significant difference between the two programs is that the value of entitlement depends only on income from a particular pension scheme and not including other income earned, which includes capital income, earning, rents, and other incomes. Okay. Meanwhile, the third program is the basic scheme, which offers either a flat rate or depending on the number of years of contribution, but not dependent on individual earnings. For instance, okay, it's like how much is your contribution, not how much you earn. For instance, China has a flat rate scheme which pays a fixed percentage of average citywide earning for each year, and Korea do have the same program as well. So these are the structure of pension scheme in Asia. The Organization of Economic Cooperative Development, OECD, has proposed a framework of two mandatory tiers in the next table besides you, a redistributive parts and an insurance part, the first tier and the second tier. So you see countries like this, for example, Hong Kong and China has a resource tested, and meanwhile China, Malaysia, Philippines have the same one, that is a basic terms where it depends on our contribution rather than our earnings or income. Other countries, Malaysia also offer a minimum, and Philippines, this is for Malaysia is defined contribution, and for Philippines is defined benefit, how much the benefit that they will get. So as for as an insurance, this is the type of the second tier, what mandatory type of contribution or defined contribution or defined benefit that they have. This is across Asia. So the schemes are available in Malaysia. We have three prominent schemes. We have pension scheme, that is for government servant. We also have employee provident funds, which actually caters for private firms employees. And we also have private retirement scheme, which is another private funds, and both for pensions, whoever wanted to subscribe to it. So let's take a look at the pension scheme by the government and for the government servant. The pension scheme is created with an intention to grant financial security for retired government servants. Retirees opting for pension scheme will enjoy a fixed monthly income, gratuity payments, and will also give free medical treatments at all government hospitals. The objective of these pension schemes are to acknowledge and appreciate the excellent service rendered to the government by the employees. It is an obligation for employees to retain their service with the government. As it also, the third objective, as a financial aid to the family if the employees pass on during their terms of service with the government and after their retirement. And lastly, to compensate is a compensation to compensate scheme for retired employees or pass away due to injury or contracted a disease because of exposed to harm in the course of carrying out his or her duty. These are the four objectives of pension scheme. The types of pension scheme, the pension scheme offered by government of Malaysia can be divided into four categories. First is compulsory pension under Section 10 Act 227/239 This is compulsory for government, whichever option of retirement that they choose, either at the age of 55, 58 or 60. This is compulsory retirement. Second is compulsory retirement at the instance of the government under Section 11 Act 227 or 239. For example, the closure of certain departments of government that actually requires you to retire. So these are the second option, second category. Next, optional retirement under Section 12 Act 222/239. This is at the age of 40 years old, but however, to retain all benefit, the government servant must work for at least 10 years with the government. And fourthly, the last category is retirement due to privatization of a government agency under Section 11 Act 227/239. For example, if when the government wanted to privatize Khazanah, it was initially under the government arm. When they privatize it, the government, the employees are given an option whether to retire, for all to retire, because it's no longer a government department. When they retire, and later they were given a contract to work under the new management or the private company. So they retire from government servant and they continue working under the private firm, and they earn pensions. At the same time, they contribute to EPF later after. Okay, employees provident funds. This is another scheme. It is a social security institution which manage their members' retirement fund using a defined contribution plan. So the main difference between a pension scheme by the government is that the final payout is determined by the contribution both from employee and employer, and investment return with investment return. So that is the final payout. While a public pensions, the final payout is a fixed, and the pensions become a liability to the public service department, meaning to say it's a liability to the government. They have to pay a fixed amount of money to the government servant who retires. Whereas the final payout for EPF is that their contribution both from employee and employers plus investment return. That's all. Alright, and then employer should register their employees as an EPF members as soon as they are employed for the first time, to ensure EPF contribution can be paid within the stipulated time. So be sure when you start working, make sure that your employer registered you with EPF. All individuals who work for a wage in the private sector or in non-pensionable role in the public sector are required to make EPF contribution. There are two categories of individuals who are not required to contribute but may opt to do so. They can do if they want. The first category refers to Malaysian citizens who are domestic servant employed in residential homes and whose wages are paid by the individual, meaning the house owner. You are working under someone as a servant, okay, domestic servant. You are a Malaysian citizen but working as a domestic servant. The second category is non-Malaysian citizen, that are foreign workers who are employed and legally staying in Malaysia. So for payment, all payment which are meant to be wages are included as part of the monthly contribution amount calculation. These include salaries, payment for unutilized annual and medical leaves, bonuses, allowances except for travelling allowances, commissions, incentive, arrears of wages, wages for maternity leaves, wage for study leave, wages for half-day leave, and other payment under services, contract or otherwise. These are all subject to monthly contribution. And payments are not liable for EPF contribution include, these are not payment liable for EPF contribution, include service charges, overtime payments, reward, which is in kind, either money or in kind, retirement benefits, retrenchment, temporary or layoff termination benefits, any travelling allowances or the value of any travelling concession, payment in lieu of notice of termination of employment, and director's fee. These are not liable for EPF contribution. So the rate of contribution to the EPF can also be divided into two categories. The first category for the employee below 55 years of age. For employee earning 5,000, The portion of employees' contribution is 11% on their monthly salary, while employer is 13%. For employees who receive wages salary exceeding 5,000, the employee's contribution is 11% remain, while the employee contribution is 12%. The second category is for employees between 55 to 75 years of age. For employees who receive wages of 5,000 and below, the employer's new share contribution is 6.5, which increased to 0.5. Then the employees who receive wages more than 5,000, the employer's shares contribution remains at 6%, subject to the total of the said wage. Yeah, this is the two types of, for those below 55 and for those who are between 55 to 75. Okay, the next scheme is Private Retirement Scheme, PRS. PRS is a contribution pension scheme which allows employee or their employer to voluntarily contribute into an investment vehicle for the purpose of building up their retirement income. This retirement scheme is complementary and voluntarily, which allows private company employees and self-employed individuals to contribute towards their retirement in a systematic way. PRS is comparable to EPF in the terms of its first, in terms of retirement purpose, both schemes are developed for the purpose of forming pre-retirees' retirement assets and income. Secondly, in terms of tax benefit, there is a tax relief between those contributing to both schemes, that is, up to 6,000 per year for EPF and up to 3,000 for PRS. So these are the tax benefit and tax advantage. The dissimilarity between EPF and PRS is that PRS contribution is voluntarily, unlike EPF, which is a compulsory made either by employees or employer. At the same, there is no statutory minimum amount or time interval for PRS contribution. Okay, these are the advantages and disadvantages of PRS. Advantages: individuals, either the employees or the employer, have the autonomy on their investment fund. PRS allow members to contribute to more than one fund under the same PRS or more than one contributor tendered by different PRS provider. Members are also allowed to switch within a PRS at a given time or change to another provider, but subject to the term compelled by the PRS provider. The disadvantage is there is no statutory minimum dividend rate as compared to EPF with statutory minimum dividend rate of 2.5% per annum. So this minimum dividend rate is actually varies via interest rates in the market. There is a possibility of experiencing a non-dividend paying years, or even worse if their pension investment is down in value. Withdrawal of PRS fund is either upon reaching retirement age of 55 or death or immigration to another country, or partial withdrawal is also allowed. That is a disadvantage of it. So as a summary, these are the features and differences between PRS and EPF. So the features: contribution type, PRS voluntary, EPF mandatory. Contribution amount, no statutory minimum or maximum. Statutory amount, there is a minimum and maximum. There is a minimum for EPF. Contribution frequency, no statutory interval. EPF monthly contribution paid to the individual PRS provider. This is paid directly to EPF. Yearly personal tax relief for PRS 3,000, for EPF 6,000. Partial withdrawal from sub-account B only and 8% tax penalty. EPF account 2 only, specific reason, no penalty. Selection of fund investment, freedom of selection among PRS provider. So for EPF, freedom only partial amount, EPF or miscellaneous account. Dividend policy, no statutory minimum, depends on fund performance. And EPF, there is a minimum statutory dividend policy of 2.5. Yeah, okay. So these are the summary. I think that is all for retirement under Malaysia. I'm giving you only a Malaysian perspective, not an international perspective. Thank you.